Hello, welcome back to the fourth trimester podcast with Sarah Trott and me, Esther Gallagher. We have some of my favoriteest of all time guests on the podcast today, here to talk about the really, really fundamentally important work that they've been doing for several years now on their project we call SisterWeb. And I'm going to let them tell you all about it. And let's start by having them each introduce themselves and maybe give us a few words about their own birth journey experience as much as they want to. And Marlee-I, would you mind going first?
I wouldn't mind at all. Thank you so much for having us here. It's very exciting to be in this space and to be able to share our work and our stories with you all. So thank you so much. I am Marlee-I Mystic, a San Francisco native, born and raised. And I would say that my birth work started at 12 years old when my sister got pregnant, who I love so much. And I was able to watch this process unfold right before my eyes, from the very moments of like, little sis, guess what? I'm having a baby, to wake up. These contractions are coming every 5 minutes. And that's when I learned how short 5 minutes was. I was like, wow, mommy, I'm going to ask for 10 minutes from now on after when I need a little break. And that was just an amazing experience. My nephew was born almost in the cold. The bag broke like right before he came. And it was just a wonderful entry into the work. Before that, I thought I wanted to be a pediatrician. So I always knew that I had this desire to work with mothers and babies and families. And so I went on being very impressive with folks when they said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I said, "Oh, a pediatrician." And everybody claps and gets excited. And all along, I supported people who were pregnant, whether it was helping them walk or get good nutrition or being there afterwards to just be around and be around the baby. I just thought I liked being around babies. It wasn't until my own experience of giving birth. My daughter will be 19 next Friday, so it's been a while. But that first experience, I did like most people do. I found out I was pregnant. I went to my, care provider and followed the steps that they laid out for me. I didn't have any idea other alternative ways or anything. I just said, I go to this hospital, I'm going to give birth at this hospital. And throughout that experience, I found myself not being treated the best. I found myself um, being drug tested without my consent. I found myself being told that I didn't really know my body and that I needed to like have other people tell me what was going on. And then during the actual labor, I almost was forced to have a C-section. And thankfully, there was a nurse in there who was studying to be a midwife. And she told me when the doctors came out and said, "Hey, you got to sign this. If you don't take a C-section, you have to sign this to say it's your responsibility if your baby dies." She told me, she said, "I'm studying to be a midwife, and I think you're almost there. This is your journey. You don't have to do anything." So that moment from a professional who understood birth telling me, "Hey, this is your experience," empowered me to continue on. And maybe like 2 hours later, my baby was born vaginally, a healthy baby girl. And I was so excited. And I also knew I was never going back to the hospital again for a birth because I didn't want to have to bring up that energy and the sacred journey of bringing life into this planet. I didn't want to have to fight. I didn't want to have to literally curse out doctors during my birth. And so I did my research and actually found a birth center for my second birth. And I was so excited, like, oh, I'm gonna have a birth center birth and I'm gonna work with midwives. And along with that came a doula. And I was like, I don't know who this lady is who wants to be calling me and coming to my house and all up in my business. She's really kind of weird. Because I still didn't know what a doula was. And I found myself getting really ill towards the end of my pregnancy. And then I saw the value of the doula, the one who's checking in on you, who is actually keeping notes and remembered everything I told her from the last conversation. The one who was able to say, "Hey, I know you already have a 3-year-old and you're going to the doctors. Would you like me to go with you and support you through this?" And so that really gave me the insight into like, oh, there is support in a way that's, like, professional, in a way of, like, somebody knows these systems and isn't just your friend who likes babies, right? And so, that experience changed everything. The care of a midwife made me feel like I knew my body was capable, my baby was capable. It just gave me a certain sense of autonomy and understanding and power. I felt powerful, I felt divine. And that young little mama came out at my doula's house. Even though I was planning to go to the birth center, I was with my doula at her house waiting for the midwives to open up the birth center. And I guess my doula told her, "You need to come here right now," because she came to the house and I was able to give birth to my second child on a full moon, born in the water bag with nothing but hot water and towels. And that was an amazing experience and bonded me with my doula. And about 2 years later, she said, "The birth center that you worked with is training doulas. You've already been a doula. This is your time to get the full understanding." And ever since then, I was 2012. I've been in this work, and SisterWeb just took it to a whole nother level, especially with this wonderful partner that I have in Alli Cuentos.
Allie, why don't you chime right in?
All right.
Thank you.
Pick it up where Marlee-I put it down. My name is Alli Cuentos. I'm one of the other co-executive directors of SisterWeb. So grateful to be here with you all. My journey with birth started with my first pregnancy that was unplanned. And I like to say, Creator had a plan for us, and it took us a minute to get on board. But as one of the very first things that popped into my head when I found out that I was pregnant with a very recent boyfriend who lived across the country, I said, I don't know anything other than I'm not going into the hospital. And I think that really stemmed from some of my own experiences of trauma, especially sexual abuse, and just knowing that my relationship with medical providers was always very fragile. Like there were very few people that I trusted with that care. And so when I found out I was pregnant, um, I walked into Rainbow Grocery to get myself some tea, and the checkout, the person I had as my cashier, was talking to me, saw the little pregnancy tea thing and says, "Oh, where are you having your baby?" I said, "I have no idea, but I don't want to go to the hospital." And she wrote down on a piece of paper the name of a midwife. And that was really our journey, finding midwifery care that, because we were on Medi-Cal at the time, a midwife who was willing to work with us and do a work exchange. And I knew absolutely nothing about pregnancy. I was a working mama, worked all the way through pregnancy, read one book, and ended up having an incredible, transformative, beautiful birth experience. I have a Cap Street baby born on the kitchen floor in our apartment on Cap Street. And, went through the whole experience, had never heard of a doula. I wanted all my people there. I had friends and family that filled that role, and we felt very held in the journey. And it wasn't really until my next pregnancy that our beautiful spirit baby that we lost in the second trimester, and going through that experience that had a lot of complications, very serious hemorrhaging at home, and ended up in the emergency room twice. Really, really, really needed a lot more care, different kinds of care than the first time around. And it turned out that our midwife was away while it was happening. And so other support people stepped in. And I think I really understood, kind of like what Marlee-I was saying at first. I had never heard the word doula, but seeing people fill a gap that like our friends and family just did not know what to do. And even for my own healing, I had declined a blood transfusion and I said, I'm going to build my body back on my own time. And so having people to come in again with that deep professional expertise to say, let's use herbal medicine, let's use food medicine, um, so that I could heal spiritually, emotionally, and physically in a really different way. I think that's where I really understood what that role of a true birth worker, a community birth worker could do. Um, my first doula client was sent to me by my midwife. Again, I don't even think I knew what the word doula was. I had had another baby at this point, and my midwife said, "You work with families." I was running an early education program in the mission. "This mama needs help." And just literally sent her over to my classroom at Parque Niños Unidos and, walked in the door pregnant with her 2-year-old. And through that experience of supporting this family, she invited me to her birth. We also found her a midwife that provided pro bono midwifery care and was able to see a family who had had such a traumatic first birth experience do this rebirthing of themselves as individuals, as a family healing, and being witness to that, seeing that again auspiciously. Baby Mateo was born on a full moon, born in the call in a little tiny apartment in Daly City. And it totally changed my life. I came home, I had 2 kids under 5, and I said to my partner, I was like, I don't know how, I don't know where, but this is what I'm meant to do on the planet. And I have to figure out how to do that all the time. And I'm just so grateful that I've had the family support. I now have 4 kids, so being a birth worker with a big family isn't easy, but I'm just so grateful to have a supportive family and community that has raised me as a birth worker. And now we get to do that for other birth workers through SisterWeb. So it's really full circle.
What strikes me about both of your stories is that you both mentioned the word doula and you both said, I didn't know what that was.
Sound
So
familiar?
there might be, that was certainly my case. Yeah. It's like, well, mine was, wait, what's postpartum? That was my question, actually. When Esther was
What?
my postpartum doula, thankfully for me. I had a very well-resourced experience. Thank you, Esther. And so if we have listeners here who have some of these same questions, I'd love to invite you to share your definition, and then maybe that can lead into what SisterWeb does.
So, a doula is a non-medical birth support person or birth companion. And what that means is typically doula support in various areas of education, information, physical, emotional support, and connection to resources, as well as advocacy. And so I would say in the old days, a doula was your mama, auntie, cousin, all them people who went to births all the time, the one who just showed up and followed the midwife along or eventually wanted to be a midwife, but somebody who had the experience of knowing what the normal process of birth is and is able to help people get the information, be prepared, and support them throughout that pregnancy journey. And SisterWeb is doula, but doula 2.0. That's how I feel as someone who was a practicing doula before SisterWeb, came into be. When SisterWeb came, it was really a sisterhood of birth workers saying, we want to make this work something that can be sustainable for our doulas. And we want to make sure the people who are most impacted by maternal mortality, morbidity, and preterm birth are supported and can afford to support it. And what does that mean? It's free. Because we know that if you don't have money or know where the money is coming from to pay your rent, you definitely don't have money to pay your doula. And so SisterWeb came in to fill that gap. And I am so grateful for that because it's evolved into a really sacred vibration that we hope amplifies out across the whole nation.
Wow, that's so amazing. I don't have any idea how you're making that model work, but
I I love it.
We make
There's
it rain, we make it rain.
there's so many people. We were just having a conversation with someone else, and she was expressing the sentiment that she wished every single birth in the US could have a doula attached to it.
Yeah, I wish there was no need for doulas, right? I wish that this was community wisdom, that there was the ability for your family, friends, and loved ones to know that normal process. I have a hope and prayer that these systems of medical industrial complexes where people are giving birth are not being racist and having implicit bias so that people can actually just come and not need the advocacy and not need someone to step in and try to stand up for their rights. Um, so I know that the system that we live in, we need everyone to have a doula and that support. And the truth of the matter is, if we lived in a just society and we kept the ancestral wisdom that we had just 2 generations ago, we wouldn't even need this kind of big support and advocacy across the nation.
And I think, for me coming in, people always say, "Oh, you are one of the co-founders of SisterWeb. Did you have a doula?" And my response is, truthfully, I didn't need a doula for my first birth because I was held in midwifery care and I had the friends and family, trusted people who could support me along the way. And so I do think that, for me, it's about keeping birth safe, but it is so much bigger. It is about keeping communities intact, keeping structural violence, creating an alternative to that, and really about providing a way to ensure choice for everyone. So for SisterWeb, that autonomy, the reproductive justice lens that we put on everything, it is about what your options are and you have the access and the choice to make those decisions for whatever is right for you and your family. That may be a doula, it may not be. But to be able to stand in dignity, to have people who are around you during your birth and postpartum experience listen to you, believe you, support you, stop when you say stop, so that informed consent, right? In this version of the world, with most people birthing in the hospital, a system that we know, um, is ground zero for a lot of those human rights violations and harms. A doula can be a protective factor and is for all of our sister web clients. One of the things that we are so proud to say is that our sister web clients, 100% of sister web clients who've had a doula have reported that their doula has helped them use their own voice and navigate the systems that they're in, the medical system. So that for us is key. It is about choice. It is about advocacy. And it's about joy, being able to push out all of that negativity so that the moment that you are meeting your child, you're bonding as a family, you're birthing yourself as a parent, you can focus on the joy and have the other people stand guard to make sure that none of that negativity gets close to you.
You know, that's a really important point that we're hitting on, the safety piece. It's come up over and over in stories that we hear from others, on the podcast and off. If someone's new to this concept, what are some of the typical things they're looking for, and what do you provide? What does that look like?
I can say that it's very different for the people that I support, right? In terms of like my private practice. And so there, people are looking for education, someone to comfort them, someone to help them feel like I can do it oftentimes. It's just like, can I do it? Do I need support? Someone help them gather information and also gather their truths. I can say when I started working for SisterWeb and working with clients, it was very different because of the population that we serve. There were a lot of social services and needs and referrals and community engagement that was needed. So people who need resources for food, clothes, diapers, even need help getting connected with care. Um, People needing someone to be their advocate in the prenatal period in the hospital, someone to help them navigate this diagnosis that they got and don't understand. Can you help me know what I'm dealing with? And so it was a lot more than just, oh, let me give you some childbirth education. This is what we're going to do, some hip squeezes, and then I'll see you at the birth. It was like it was almost like doula my life, right? Like there are many aspects of my life that are impacting the way that I can focus on this pregnancy, the way that I can be healthy, the way that I can keep my stress levels down, because I heard I'm Black and I'm probably going to end up with preeclampsia, right? And then all of this helping to navigate the fear of birth. There is a lot of fear going into birth. And I'm grateful that during my pregnancies, I didn't know that there are all these issues that could come up, right? So I didn't come into it saying, well, I just want to be alive. And there's often people who come into SisterWeb who are saying, I just want to live through this birth. And we are able to expand that to say, yes, there's no reason that you shouldn't live through this birth. So let's talk about how you are healthy, how your body is made to do this, and how we're going to put this protection around you and provide you with the resources so we can get those stress levels down that are causing all of these physical problems, and make sure that everybody is in your circle is supporting you on your path and you're not fighting or scared you're going to die or scared the baby's going to be taken, right? So it's been a lot of different dynamics that we work with as doulas when we're community doulas. In my private care, I can be like, yeah, girl, I'll see you in a month. In my care with my people in my community, I'm probably going to hear from you next week. I'm going to get a text in the middle of the night. So I think doula work is as varied as the birthing people that we serve.
Thank you for bringing that to life. Alli, what's your experience?
Yeah, I think very similar. Both Marlee-I and I are still out here going to births on our own outside of SisterWeb. But I do think that birth is part of life, right? So for some folks, and I will just name as a white-bodied person, there are a lot of people who come into their pregnancy and birth experience in a white body who might experience some of the rubs or the harms with the medical industrial complex, and they're like shocked and like, oh my gosh, I can't believe these doctors aren't listening to me. And I would say that working with communities that are very impacted by all levels of racism and harm, right? Intergenerational, structural, systemic, from the laws that are built to literally harm people, right? I think that the integration, like some of the challenges that people are dealing with in pregnancy, are just so connected with all other aspects of life that, like Marlee-I said, being community birth workers means we are in it to win it with you, not just about pregnancy, not just about birth or the postpartum, but really for you as a person, as a family, and as an integral part of the community. And so it's I think not a coincidence that so many of our clients at SisterWeb want to keep connected with us. They want to show up at our SisterWeb walks. They want to come to events that we're doing. They want to come and enroll in our doula training and be part of our apprenticeship program and get hired on as doulas. So about half of our staff are former clients. And I think that it's really about that weaving of, the SisterWeb is about whole person, whole community thrival. It's not just as narrow as birth. And I think that is a real difference in the framework, that when people say, oh, I'm going to hire a doula, or I have a doula. It's almost like a commodity. It's very transactional in this, I will say, more white European capitalist mentality. It's like, oh, I have a housekeeper, I have a doula, I have a nanny. And it's just it's like a whole other framework that we're working in SisterWeb, where it's, we go and we meet our clients where they're at. What are your goals? How can we make a plan? Like, what are the places that are hard in your life? Maybe it has absolutely nothing to do with the pregnancy, but the doula is going to show up and be with you and support you and listen to you and, be on the journey with you. And sometimes just having that reassurance, somebody to walk with me, that saying, don't try to lead me because I won't follow, just walk with me. And that really is embodied in the everyday work of SisterWeb. So when you say, oh, what did a SisterWeb doula do on any given day? It could be literally anything, anything, right? But the feeling how our clients leave care is they don't feel alone and they feel more confident and they feel like they could really lean on somebody, they could count on somebody who would show up. So that's when we know we did a good job.
And I imagine you have lasting relationships with some of these clients.
Definitely. Definitely. We build those bonds and we hold those boundaries of like, okay, this is a professional, I'm working, this is a professional person, but you're so into those people's lives and you open up your heart to them that when they come back and say hello or say, I'm coming back with my next baby, I want you, or my baby's in kindergarten now. Some of our first SisterWeb babies are in kindergarten now. And to get the pictures sent and the thank yous and look at how big he was now. And he was premature. Look at him now. Right. And so it's very rewarding in that sense because this type of community doula work is very, very tiresome. It requires a lot of us to be there, to really be able to show up for the whole person. And it's rewarding when you see that transition, that development of like, this is somebody who wasn't even sure what they were getting into. And look at them thriving as parents. Look at this child who has an understanding, who's like, oh, yeah, I'm excited. You're my what? I don't know you, lady, but all right, it's really beautiful. And even when they leave town and aren't like, eligible to be a SisterWeb client anymore. I've taken on SisterWeb clients who've left and been like, well, you're my client now. I can't cover you under SisterWeb, but because we had that bond, I'm going to support you through this work. And even virtually, I had a client who moved all the way to Tennessee and called me like, girl, I need you. And I said, well, I'm here for you. I'm here to support you through this journey.
Well, I mean, that just speaks to how you can support in so many different ways. Even that would be like more of a telehealth model, right?
Yes.
You're supporting virtually, which is amazing.
Yeah. And it's impactful and it helps,
And Marlee, would you like to talk to us a little bit about how it's all, I mean, I would love it if we had time to talk a little bit about the history, because I know it was, somebody had to get the idea, somebody's, and then kind of this state of SisterWeb currently and how it's all functioning and what you want the world to know about how SisterWeb exists and functions and is gonna keep functioning as an amazing organization. You've co-created this amazing thing that is so revolutionary and subversive, I might add, to the model that we otherwise float around in so dangerously without knowing it. And so I'm just so in awe of you all, and I would love you to talk about, how you've made this work, because I know it has been a real roller coaster, tidal wave kind of process. So if you don't mind, thank you.
So, see, if I was talented like Marlee-I Mystic, I would just launch into the musical number of the history of SisterWeb. So call us back in a year and we'll have that version ready. The history of SisterWeb, it really sprouted up through what we believe are divine right place, right time connections. some of the work that I was involved in, mostly in the Mission District with Spanish-speaking immigrant communities. We had begun looking at, just the real lack of culturally congruent, racially congruent doulas to work with immigrant population. There were some of us, myself included, that were white identified but spoke Spanish, that had been coming, volunteering, working at different community agencies to fill that gap. But I'll call it like it is. It's a Band-Aid, right? It was, how do we just jump in and fill a need, but without really addressing those root causes of communities having from within the support and the ability to meet the needs of their own people. And so we started working on a Spanish language doula training with a group of folks. And right around the same time, Sister Marna was in the Bayview, and Marlee-I can talk a little bit about how she met Marna, and it literally was like somebody wrote down my number, kind of like that. You gotta love the handwritten numbers past. That's like a frequent character in this story. Somebody at the Bayview YMCA wrote down my number, Alli phone number, scrawled, gave it to Marna. She was like, I don't know who I'm calling, but I'm going to call her anyway. And that initial conversation that was like an hour-long conversation turned into us starting to meet every other day, coffee shops, community centers, the local library, and really starting to see this vision of what if we could create a professional home. And that really, from day one, that was the motivation. We love our families, we love our babies, but really what the gap that SisterWeb was trying to fill is, how do we make this a sustainable profession so that the folks from within the community who do not have the luxury of volunteering or, doing a side hustle or a pro bono this, like, they need the solid paycheck to keep the lights on, feed families. How do we turn this into something that can really be rooted, like deeply rooted in the community? And that is how SisterWeb was born. And I'll pass it on to Marlee-I.
Yeah, that's the root. That is really the root of it. The serendipitous, moments. I feel like that was the same way that I got connected with Marna, our previous executive director, one of the co-founders, was through a connection. I do sound healing, sound, voice, and music healing, and I did a program, and one of my sisters from that program is a DJ, and she said, "Oh, I'm coming to your neighborhood because there's another sister who's a doula who's raising funds or something." She started talking about getting doulas together. And I was like, what are you talking about? I don't know any other Black doulas in San Francisco. Everybody I left was in the East Bay. And she was like, no, you should come down. It's right down the street from your house. I'm going to be there. Come through. And so literally walked down the hill and met Marna. And she was just so excited. Like, yes, I have a vision. This is going to happen. We're going to be able to pay Black doulas to support Black women. And I said, how long have you been a doula? Because nobody is paying us to support us. Like, that's the volunteer work. You go and you do births over here for a high price, and then you volunteer over here for free. And she was like, no, I'm about to make some changes. And I laughed again and said, okay, well, here's my number written down on a piece of paper. Here's my number. If you can actually pull that off, I am down to ride with you. And very soon thereafter, I was riding, and I'm still riding, and we'll ride until we fly, because the wheels aren't going to fall off. We're just going to elevate. And so that's really how it went. It was like this coming together. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, wow, there are all these Black and brown doulas in the city that I didn't even know. We didn't even know about each other. And so for me, it was just a breath of fresh air to have community in this work, because, we're talking 2018, people still, what is a doula? Oh, okay, no, I don't need your help. I got a mama, I got a sister, I got a friend. And so to have this support and to say, oh, wow, we're in this together, and being connected with sisters that I could lean on, because I had young children at the time too. So it was like, if I need to go to a particular event, my clients are just kind of left alone. I'm trying to find somebody to support me. And SisterWeb really built this network of doulas. And I was able to open my eyes to the needs of not just the Black community, but of our Hispanic and Latina community, of our Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander community, and saw how much we were all really in this struggle together. And I think that was one of the really beautiful things about the coming into being of SisterWeb, was this idea that it can start with like, we're over here doing this work that's pushing birth equity and reproductive justice. We're over here seeing a need that needs to be filled. And for us to come together was even more powerful. And I think that's what gave us that launch pad kind of start, where we just jumped in and was like, boom, let's go. We are running for it. And I remember having another job where I was teaching nutrition and working part-time. And then there was this opportunity at SisterWeb, and there was this struggle within me, like, oh, I like nutrition and holistic stuff and birth. Maybe I can just focus on it for a while. And I remember this guy I was talking to randomly, I asked him, I said, do you think I should take this opportunity? Like, they're a new organization. I don't know if it's going to last. And he said, if I was a person of faith like you, I would take this leap of faith, because it seems like things are lining up. And that was very powerful for someone who didn't have faith, to see me and see this synergy happening and say, go for it. And I appreciate that person to this day, because look at how far we've come.
I have this little image of Marna with a stack of little crunches of paper, just growing and growing and somehow hanging on to them. And then, like you said, Marlee, boom. Yeah, that's a delightful story.
Yeah, it's still happening. Right. And so that way of staying open to different opportunities, like Sarah, when you asked, how the heck are you guys funding this program? A lot of it is, I think, twofold. Like, one, knowing who we are and knowing what we stand for and staying the course. So instead of like creeping out and doing a million things, we're like, we are put here to do this work for the community. And if we really stay true to our mission, stay true to our values, right? Community wisdom, economic justice, respect and autonomy. Like, we are really here for, I guess, standing in our own dignity, that especially with the threats of, economic decline, COVID pandemic, change in federal political landscape, like, we're going to stay true to who we are. And then at the same time, being open to the actual and metaphorical slips of paper that come our way. So when there are opportunities to build, we're in some amazing partnerships with other community organizations in the city, like really, truly building something unique with our clinical providers. So we're partnered with the Embrace program and the Black Women's Health and Livelihood Initiative at UCSF. We're partnered with other community organizations working in Bayview and other parts of the city. And even on a national level, right? Building with other community doula programs. And even like right now with the American Heart Association, they're like, SisterWeb, work with us to really think creatively, but in a community rooted way, about improving health outcomes, especially focused on postpartum systems of care and where those mamas are falling through the gaps in the postpartum way of, not checking up on moms after the birth, and the role that doulas can play in that fourth trimester. So I think that, being open to new opportunities, like what we want the world to know about SisterWeb is, come knock on our door, sit down, come on, knock on our door. I know, we're terrible. We love the musical interludes. So, we're open. We're open to partnership. We do not see ourselves as isolated. We're in a whole fabric of community support. And the other thing to know is that we are really committed to the birth workers alongside our families. So if people think sometimes it's, even the way grants and city contracts are written, it's all about the client support. And we know as birth workers, this work is very hard, especially with staff that are facing all the same threats and arrows being thrown at them as our clients are. We have to stand up for our staff. And so things that, I would say the victories, like where SisterWeb is now, we are able to offer full-time benefited employment to our staff. Many of our staff are parents. Some of them are, single family, like single adult households. And so being able to offer 100% coverage and medical benefits for the staff and their children for us is like, we have to stand by that. And so whatever choices we're making as we're navigating the changing landscape, looking for grant opportunities, like we know that we have to fight for that alongside of fighting for the services for our clients. It can't be one or the other.
And we have to build this workforce. Like I said, when I met Marna, like, oh, there was another Black doula in San Francisco. I had no idea. So even coming up with this model and then being like, where are we going to find the doulas? People in our community hadn't been exposed to that. And so we're getting community people to become doulas. And so that really inspired us to amplify the program even more and do community doula trainings to, in partnership with our cousins, our birth worker cousins, our doula cousins out in Oklahoma Birth Equity Initiative. We were able to create our own curriculum, the Blossoming Birth Community Doula curriculum, which is really specified for people doing community doula work so that it can talk about what they're dealing with. The modules focus on the areas that they are having issues in their own community where they can bring in the experts from their area. And it's not just some generic, oh, this is what birth is. It really gets into how you show up as a community doula. And that has really amplified this work. We see it in the people who are trained, the confidence that they have to go out and really support community. And then we saw that we could build our workforce by taking those folks we trained and putting them into apprenticeship so that they're ready to come and serve and be workers here at SisterWeb. And so that was one thing that I just thought was magnificent about the program was we're not just bringing doulas in, giving a couple $1,000s per birth and saying, support yourself on your own, all because SisterWeb was made by birth workers. There was a great understanding of the support that birth workers need to keep this sustainable. The mentorship. I had never had a mentor, let alone a birth worker doula mentor. Like, I almost was like, I don't want to talk to no mentor. And they're like, oh, it's going to be midwives from the community. I said, oh, I want that mentorship. I'll show up to that, please. The continued education, learning about different practices and things that you don't learn in your doula training or from the midwives that you work with for years. So these supports for the workforce have been really powerful. And I think one of the most powerful tools was the Champion Dyad initiative. I always have to say that. As a doula before SisterWeb, I'll be like, let me put my boxing gloves on because I'm going to fight for my clients so they don't have to fight for themselves. And when I came to SisterWeb, we're like, we have relationships with people in the labor and delivery and all the providers. And I was like, what kind of relationship? These are the ops. Okay, this is the opposition. And it was like, no, we're a team. Together, everyone achieves more. And we have. The fact that there were people on the inside. I didn't even know there were people on the inside of these hospitals and medical institutions who actually had a heart to care and actually had the understanding of what community care looks like. I thought everybody was just, assembly line, went to school, we do it, boom, 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 keep people out. It's all about the money. And so that was an eye opener for me to be able to not just have partnerships with these hospitals, but build relationships with them. Have their phone numbers of providers who I can call when my clients are dealing with issues or when we're trying to navigate these systems. And that fundamental tool of SisterWeb has really impacted the lives of our doulas because they feel safer going into the hospitals and supporting people and advocating, right? Like I can stand on this truth more because I know that I have support not just from the community but inside the hospital. So that advocacy has been strengthened so much, and the care of our clients when there's familiarity between the birth workers and the people when you go into the hospital, those shoulders relax a little bit when I know the nurse who's coming in, right? And we can smile and have great things. Then my client is looking like, okay, this is a safe space. And so I never want to leave that part out because I think that's a fundamental aspect of SisterWeb that changed the way in which we can have partnerships, we can engage, we can advocate, and we can stand in our authority as part of the team. We are part of the birth team. And that makes a difference. And from someone who used to be ready to throw them hands figuratively with my words and all of my energy and my prayers, I was going to bring everything out to support my clients. And now I don't have to pull that back out as much. You know, I'm able to really just show up and share space and be someone who's contributing to a beautiful experience, what we hope will be a beautiful experience.
I want to just say, what a high note to end on, the idea of team, the idea of achieving more. And I say, here to more of that. I want to invite you to share any final words you want to share with our listeners.
All right. Final words for you all. Thank you so much for allowing us to come and speak with you all. My final words, number one, check us out, sisterweb.org. And my other words are, you don't have to do it alone. If you are going through your fourth trimester, reach out. The more we are humble and ask for help, it's actually a strength. And by receiving help and support, you're also building up those muscles to then reach out and help somebody else. And I'll pass it on to Marlee-I.
Wow, what beautiful words, Alli. I would definitely say that right now, doulas are on the rise. So postpartum, prenatal, after a loss, all of those ways doulas can support you. And if you are looking to have some doula training and you're in the Bay Area, you're in San Francisco specifically, that curriculum I was just talking about with Blossom and Birth is a 3-unit credited class at City College, San Francisco. So if you are a City College student, there are opportunities semester after semester to really get that community birth worker doula understanding so that you can really fulfill my dream of everyone having this information, of it really being community wisdom. And for those who are in their postpartum, I just want to encourage you because postpartum never ends. You've had a baby, you're always in postpartum. I'm still in postpartum, right? And I think postpartum is a part of life that we get to experience as birthing people, that we get that wisdom, that divine moment where we've stood in the portal between life and death and came out on the other side. So I just honor each and every one of us who have gone through that, who will go through it, and all of us who support it and watch and are contributing to a joyous experience.
Thank you. So we'll put links to your website in our show notes so it's easy to find. Thank you so much, Alli and Marlee-I, for being on the program today.
Thank you so much.